I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix your binge eating once and for all, so that you can feel confident again, feel good in your clothes again, and ultimately take back control of your life. And don't worry, this isn't going to be filled with fluff like you need to practice mindful eating. These are going to be actionable steps that you could start literally within the next hour if you wanted to. So just please put down your phone for the next 10 to 20 minutes and give this video your full attention, because I promise, if you actually watch this video and implement the strategies that I'm about to tell you, you will 100% fix your relationship with food. You had a stressful day at work or school. Maybe you failed an exam. Maybe you didn't get the raise that you wanted. So you get home and find yourself grabbing the bag of chips or opening up the pantry and just eating and eating and eating. You probably even feel like you cannot stop. You don't feel in control of your food anymore. In fact, you may feel like it's the other way around, like the food controls you. This is what's called binge eating, and it's actually a lot more common than you might think. 4% of women and 2% of men will deal with some form of binge eating at one point in their lives. But who am I? My name is Sebastian Bedinker, and I'm the world's #1 binge eating recovery coach. I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people fix their binge eating and ultimately take back control of their lives. I have worked with both men and women and have studied thousands of hours on binge eating in specific. It wasn't always like this. I've always really been into fitness, bodybuilding specifically. And in my pursuit of trying to look as jacked as possible, I went on what is called a dirty bulk. Stay with me, I promise. This is all gonna make sense. A bulk is when you eat more calories on purpose to potentially gain more muscle. And then there's what is called a dirty bulk, which, as the name implies, it's where you eat dirty food or junk food. Anything and everything under the sun to gain as much muscle as possible, or so I thought. As you can imagine, this quickly led to me developing a binge eating disorder. I remember specifically telling myself, okay, this is my last meal, this is dinner, nothing after this. And 2 hours later, I'd be at the Jack in the Box drive-thru, ordering 6 tiny tacos, a large Dr. Pepper, large fries, and ranch. I remember it like it was yesterday because that was my favorite binge eating order. So instead of me eating these foods in hopes to gain muscle, it started to affect every aspect of my life negatively. I suffered from low energy. I wasn't confident anymore. I never even wanted to go out with my friends anymore. Clothes that once felt comfortable felt way too tight on my skin. I had to constantly readjust my shirts just to try and feel normal. And worst of all, I stopped going to the gym. I completely lost all my motivation. So after binge eating for months on end, I had my oh shit moment. If you guys follow me, you already know what an oh shit moment is. But for my new people, this is basically when you literally say out loud to yourself, oh shit. I looked in the mirror and I didn't even recognize the person staring back at me. I knew at this very moment, if I continued going down this path, I was gonna end up with health complications and become obese. I was losing who I was day by day. So I decided to go to the top bodybuilding coach in the world, Cody Hudson, who is still my coach, and I asked him if he could help me. In our entire journey, during this 6-month-long process, I took my body to new limits that I was extremely proud of. But more importantly, I was able to lose 60 pounds. I even placed second in a bodybuilding competition. But more importantly, I finally learned healthier eating habits, and I got my binge eating under control. In my years of researching binge eating, I have found there to be 3 main causes of binge eating, and these are what's called triggers, something that triggers you to binge eat. Stress, boredom, and restriction. Now, there's different subcategories like sadness, and that would be a subcategory of stress. And you can also struggle with multiple of these triggers, maybe even all of them. So I'm going to tell you how to fix every single one. Now, it's very important to identify which trigger is causing you to binge eat, because if you don't know what's causing you to binge eat, it's going to be very hard to fix. You have to first find the problem before coming up with the solution. So once you figure out your trigger, you can implement a plan to fix it. Let's start with the first trigger, stress. To identify if your binge eating is caused by stress, just ask yourself a simple question. Do you ever have an argument with maybe family or friends or in school or at work, and you immediately feel the need to de-stress by looking in the pantry or grabbing the closest snack next to you, and you don't even want to begin thinking about them? So your coping mechanism is to eat a bag of chips. This is what would be called a stress trigger. You have to understand that food should not be used for comfort. It should not be there to de-stress you. Food is there to fuel you. It's there to give you energy for the day. It's to provide your body with nutrients and the health it needs, not just to survive, but to thrive. So in this situation, when you're using food as an unhealthy coping mechanism, we simply have to find healthier coping mechanisms, or outlets, if you will. One of the things I recommend for my personal clients is to maybe pick up a hobby you haven't done in a while. I work with a retired professional ice skater, so I told her, hey, maybe you could go ice skating again. Or you could watch a comedy movie or a funny podcast. Humor really helps me de-stress. Maybe you can go out on a walk. Sunlight is one of the best ways to help you feel better about yourself, and it gets you moving. The most important thing you have to realize for the stress trigger is just that you need healthier coping mechanisms. Something that you can sustain rather than stuff in your mouth, which you won't be able to sustain for the rest of your life without suffering health complications. Do you ever find yourself maybe on Saturdays or Sundays where you don't have work? It's an off day and you're looking at the fridge way more, filling up your entire time with eating foods, eating snacks, drinking soda. This is a textbook example of the boredom trigger. I always say being bored is the worst state that you could be in. Nothing good comes from being bored. This is why so many people take drugs or drink alcohol when they're bored, because it leads to a quick dopamine rush, but at the cost of your mental and physical health. It's the exact same thing with junk food. You're using food to spike your dopamine levels, to make you feel good in the moment. But do you ever notice how after you eat an entire combo from Wendy's or a box of pizza from Papa John's, you feel like complete and utter shit? You feel slow, lethargic, low energy, maybe even cranky, and you're most definitely not motivated to get anything productive done for your day. Food doesn't just impact your health physically, but it impacts your mental health. So my best actionable advice when it comes to the boredom trigger is simply filling up your calendar. Start having something to do each hour. Plan out your day in advance and try to put an event into each hour slot. 8 a.m. wake up. 9 a.m. healthy breakfast. 10 a.m. gym. 11 a.m. shower. Meditate, lunch, so on and so forth. Maybe pick up a new sport. For my guys, maybe even a martial arts. Or girl, if you're into it. Me personally, I love jujitsu. It de-stresses me and I always feel good after I come off the mats. Filling up your calendar is not only going to help your emotional eating, but it's going to help you become an even more productive human being. Bonus tip that's actually really important is make sure you're drinking a lot of water throughout the day. Like literally up to a gallon a day. Because sometimes you're not actually hungry, you're just dehydrated. Have you ever tried a new diet where you're eating very low calories? Let's say 1,300 calories, and you're eating extremely healthy, a salad, just fruits and veggies. And maybe you're doing good for a day, maybe even a week, but then you fall back into the vicious binge eating cycle. This is a restriction trigger. One thing that you have to realize is food is fuel, guys. One thing that you have to realize is food is fuel. Food is the most important thing for us as humans, besides oxygen and water. It is not the enemy. So completely restricting yourself from junk food, from cookies, from cake is not a good thing, because you are just going to crave these things more and more. And you may be asking, well, what if I can't control myself? I have a bite of a cookie, I have one cookie, and then I feel like I need to eat the entire bag. I have a donut and then I feel like I need to eat the entire box. You have to realize that the food is still going to be there tomorrow. You don't have to eat the entire box of pizza in one sitting. I promise that food is going out one way or the other. So there is no use in stuffing your face, eating all of it, because you're just gonna feel terrible both mentally and physically. One of the best strategies that I recommend for my clients is, instead of the typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3-meal approach that most people use, we instead use a 4 to 6 smaller sized meal approach. And I'm not talking have McDonald's 4 times a day. I'm talking have a healthy, smaller sized meal every 2 to 3 hours. Maybe some chicken, some steak, some healthy carbs like potatoes or rice, some veggies in there, and maybe some healthy fats like avocado or peanut butter. This has so many benefits, but the main one is that it's going to keep you satiated, which is that feeling of being full all throughout your day. And also make sure you emphasize protein. Protein is not just for bodybuilders to build muscle. In my opinion, it is the most important macronutrient. Not only does protein help you build muscle, but it is going to keep you satiated and feeling full, which is going to reduce your cravings and your thoughts of binge eating. I typically recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 100 pounds, I'd recommend 100 grams of protein. Use something called the substitution method that I created. It's a very simple yet effective concept. Essentially, every food and every drink in the entire world has a lower calorie substitution. I'll give you some of the most common. Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which is around 1400 calories. If you're craving that, why not instead have something like Halo Top or Favorite Day, which tastes just as good and only has about 300 to 400 calories per pint. That saves you 1,000 calories and cures your sweet tooth. Instead of regular cheese, you could substitute it with something like low-fat cheese. Instead of sodas, you could substitute it with diet sodas. And no, diet sodas are not going to kill you. Aspartame does not cause cancer. I will literally put the study right here. If you're a big fan of chips, you could opt for something like Quest protein chips. They're similar calories, but it has more protein, and like you already know, protein is king at keeping you full. Lightly salted popcorn is another great substitution because you can have a lot of it for a little amount of calories. Eventually, you can use the substitution method to make delicious recipes like this that are low in calorie but still taste amazing. Also, shameless plug, you can check out my Instagram if you're interested in those. Since you made it this far, I'm gonna give you the single most important piece of advice to fix your binge eating. Real quick, if you have found this video valuable, I would appreciate a like, and maybe you can share if you're feeling extra generous. You could send this to a friend or family member that could potentially relate and find some value in this. So what is this number 1 secret tip? Well, it's not actually a tip or a hack. It's just a way of thinking. When you binge eat, and yes, I said when, because I expect you to binge eat, it's okay, I promise. Do not punish yourself. When you punish yourself for overeating one night by lowering your calories the next day, or running endless amounts of cardio to try to burn off all the food you just ate, all you're doing is creating an unhealthy relationship with food. So if you take anything from this video, please let it be this: you are human. It is normal to make mistakes. That is the only way we learn and ultimately grow. You are not a fuck up. You are not a failure. And tomorrow is a brand new day to do better. Binge eating recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. It's not about snapping your fingers and never binge eating again. It's simply about reducing the amount of times that it happens. Finally, I want to say thank you for watching this video to its entirety and giving me your undivided attention. Binge eating is hard. Why make it harder on yourself by going through it alone? Look, you can absolutely force this mindset on yourself and fix the binge eating by yourself, lose the weight by yourself. I cannot stress how incredibly helpful it is to have someone like me, the world's #1 binge eating recovery coach, right by your side, giving you the exact guidance, the exact meals, and the exact plan catered to your specific situation. If you want to fix your binge eating in half the time that it would take to do it alone, and you want to lose weight so that you can finally feel confident again, feel comfortable in your clothes again, and ultimately take back control of your life, like my client Destiny has, like my client Jeremiah has, like my client Julian has, you can book a free consultation call with me below using the first link in the description. We'll see if you're a good fit for my 90-day transformation challenge and get you in the best shape of your life and finally fix your relationship with food. I'll talk to you legends soon.